Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. We begin today with Jennifer Yim. She is the Executive Director of the Utah Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission. Jennifer, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Glenn.
You guys play a very important role in the election time because a lot of times we get to the judges and we say, I don't know anything about these people. What should I do? And that's where you come in. Talk about JPEC Defined. What is it that you guys do?
We are an independent state commission that evaluates the performance of judges for voters.
What is the history of your organization? Because I've had you on the show in previous years. How long have you been doing this? How did it all come about?
Okay, yes, that's true. Thanks for having me back. We were begun in 2008 by the state legislature. They established this independent commission. Judges have been evaluated for decades in Utah, but for many years they were evaluated by the Utah judiciary itself. And in 2008, a new independent commission was established to evaluate the performance of judges for voters.
Let's talk a little bit about the evaluation process. It's quite lengthy. There are a lot of moving parts to it. How does the process go from start to finish when you then make your recommendations to the public on how they should vote?
Well, it's an exhaustive process. We start when the judge is first appointed, and we do continuous evaluations up until they're on the retention evaluation, and then again if they happen to be retained. So we start by tracking the judge's calendar and collecting information about the people who appear regularly in the judge's court. That's attorneys, court staff, bailiffs, interpreters, allied professionals who find themselves regularly in a judge's court. We survey all of them, maybe 250 people or more for many judges in the state.
And then you put that all together in one report for voters to go look at.
We do. We also do courtroom observation with lay trained observers across the state. And we also supplement that with a tracking of objective material and standards for people to consider.
Okay, let's focus in on this year. How many judges across the state are up for retention? Some of those are statewide, others not. Explain that to us.
Great. There are 59 judges on a ballot somewhere in the state of Utah. Every voter will have at least 7 judges on their ballots. Those are our appellate judges, our Court of Appeals and Utah Supreme Court justices. And the rest of their ballot, maybe people will see up to 20 judges on their ballot, depending on the locale that they're voting in.
And what is the recommendation that voters will see when they go to your website and look at these 59 judges? Because you either recommend to retain or not to retain. That's
exactly right. So when a voter would go to judges.utah.gov and take a look at the information about the judges on their ballot, they can choose the county they live in. They'll see all the judges that will be on their ballots, and they do see a recommendation. Voters should think about that recommendation as whether or not the judge passes minimum performance standards. Commissioners are required by law to vote to retain the judge if they pass minimum performance standards. And so that's a nice way to sort of understand that. But in addition to that information, you can find as much or as little information as you want about the judge. A narrative describing the judge's strengths and weaknesses, information about the minimum performance standards that we measure. You can even see the survey questions that we ask and the average scores for each one of those questions.
And I think you said, I just want to hit on this again, that you can put in your own information and it will show you which judges will appear on your ballot before waiting for the ballot to see which ones are on there, or is that not the case?
We provide county-specific information.
Okay.
For most people, that will be all of the judges on their ballots, yes.
Got it. So this year, the recommendation is to retain all 59 judges, is that correct?
It's true. Every judge who's on the ballot has a recommendation to retain.
However, that's not necessarily unanimous on all of them, though.
Right.
So you may find on some where some dissent on their record.
Yes. So there are some judges where there's a mixed yes vote, where you can see those vote counts right on the ballot. It's right there with that recommendation to retain.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about historically how the retain versus not retain recommendation has worked out, because and also get into this. A judge actually has the opportunity to go over what you provide before they decide whether or not they want to run again. So it's possible they see that you're going to recommend that they not be retained, and then they just decide not to run again. So talk us through that.
That's exactly right, Glenn. So it's important for voters to know, because when they go to our website, they do see that all of the recommendations for judges are all in the recommend side. But judges have an opportunity to see their evaluation reports from JPEC, the results of their evaluation, before they decide whether to run for the retention election or not. And while judges have any number of reasons for choosing to leave the bench, it is also true that a judge who receives a negative recommendation for retention is most likely to resign or retire rather than seek the retention election.
Okay, we did not see that in 2016, because I remember that there was a judge that was recommended not be retained, but she decided to continue on to the election anyway.
Yes, and that's absolutely their choice. JPEC does not try to dissuade or encourage a judge to make any particular decision. It's completely up to the judge.
And is that the first time you had encountered that specific scenario in the time of JPEC?
It is. It's the only time that a judge has ever run on a negative retention.
Okay. And if I remember right, she ended up being retained in the election.
Yes, it was a much closer margin,
Okay.
but you're correct.
So make a pitch for this, because like I said at the beginning, oftentimes we're going through the ballot, moving through everything, you know, we're familiar with candidates, the amendments and other issues on the ballot, but you get to the judges and you just kind of get stuck. So make a pitch for why this is so important for voters to make an informed decision on this in the upcoming election.
We don't have to look far, do we, to see that people care in Utah deeply about their justice system. Here is an opportunity for people to weigh in on their justice system, to take a moment to go to judges.utah.gov, to look at the judges who they'll find on their ballot and make an informed choice about whether you think this judge should serve another term of office. I think it's a great, whether you vote yes or no, the decision is yours. It's your opportunity to weigh in on your justice system and to help Utah have the best court system in the nation.
Okay, and why don't you give us that website one more time? You have said it a couple times, but always good to repeat that as many times as possible.
People can go to judges.utah.gov to find comprehensive information about all the judges on their ballots.
All right, this is an important part of the ballot and something that we all should take very seriously. Jennifer, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being here today.